What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, poppincurbs, and I appreciate you tuning in to another episode. Let's start by just wishing everybody a happy new year. Here on this season 5 premiere, oh my goodness, I mentioned at the end of the last season, I thought we'd be back. We're back, folks. And not only are we are back starring you. I wanted to start off this season with something rad, something out of the box, and I thought, you know what? Let's open it up to the rad listeners around the world. I want to hear from you all. And this is something that doesn't have to be exclusive to this type of episode. Any of you can reach out at any time via DMs, via 182newspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to drop me a line, tell me I'm terrible. Tell me your favorite candy. I'm down to chat. It's all good. This is part of why I started this podcast, is because I just love chatting with fellow Blink fans, and I could do it all day, every day. Unfortunately, I don't always have the time for that. I wish I could bring new people on the podcast every other week and just have this thing rolling all the time, but it's a little tough. That being said, I did want to bring you all on, and when I find a cool subject to get some input on, it makes perfect sense. So the way that this episode kind of lined up, I was thinking the other day, as I'm trying to kind of build the YouTube page and I'm doing fun stuff there, I'm honestly really enjoying it. And I think it's getting a little better. I didn't set a New Year's resolution this year, but maybe it'll be to just increase the YouTube stuff a little bit more, make it a little more professional. I kind of cringe when I see some of the older stuff. It's all good. But I wanted to really put together my top 5 Mark Hoppus bass guitars. And as a Blink historian per se and just nerd, I like thinking about this kind of stuff. And I hadn't really thought about it. I don't know what my top 3 were, certainly didn't know my top 5. And I was planning on just doing it by myself. And then I was thinking, you know what? You know who I should invite on that would be rad? Allan Corona, the bass making extraordinaire himself. I hit him up. It was short notice. I was like, man, this will just take 10 to 15 minutes. I don't think it's podcast worthy. I think we just do a quick little video and we'll go through these David Letterman style, number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll be on our way. Well, Allan, rad, super rad, came on. No doubt in my mind, he was going to come on with some rad info and I was going to learn some stuff. He jumps on. I think we talked for 32 to 35 minutes. At the end of that, it's like, man, that was such a great convo back and forth. I learned so much from Allan, and I was thinking, you know what? I might rip that onto a future podcast. If there's time at the end, we shall see. But I didn't want to just put that out as a standalone pod. Then I was thinking, you know what? Maybe we can open up the phone lines here on 182 News, and let's get your input. Because I'm curious, what are your favorite Mark Hoppus bass guitars and why? A lot of times it's the stories behind it that I actually appreciate. It could be the most random one in the world, but why? What does it mean to you? That's the beauty on a lot of this stuff, is all of these different memories and certain scenarios that may have one sticking out a little bit higher than the other. So I opened it up, and very appreciative of the responses I got some rad ones on here, got some from folks I don't know, got some from folks you will definitely know. So what I'm going to do here on this episode to kick off this season, I am going to go through and I am going to plug in all of the callers who submitted their top 5 Mark Hoppus bass guitars. And I haven't even listened to these yet. So what I'm going to do is I will plug them into the podcast via Magic, and I will kind of reply to those immediately after. And we're going to go through these. And I cannot wait to hear all of the responses. I did say, if you don't have a top 5, or maybe you don't know the names of them, it's all good. You can send me just your favorite one, or even just send me a picture of the one you dig the most. It's all just here in good fun. So as always, I really appreciate the engagement on this. It just makes it fun. If nobody cares, nobody sends any in, then I'm not going to do it again. But in this scenario, we got quite a few responses, for which I'm very appreciative for. It's the type of thing that just makes you want to continue trying to do rad shit and engage with the Blink community. So without further ado, we are going to jump into these responses. And then at the end of it, I am going to plug in my conversation with Allan Corona, where Allan goes through his top five. I really, really valued his opinion, so I was stoked to hear his countdown. And then, of course, you'll hear from the dumbass host, Poppin' Curbs. You'll get my top five if you're curious. And I think it translates decent on audio, but if you want to see the video version of it, and I've plugged in pictures of the guitars and some decent little B-roll, head over to the YouTube page and you will find that video in full and check it out over there if you want the video component. So here we go. I'm going to jump into these. Let's see who we have up first.
All right, Poppin, here's my top five Hoppus basses, in no order, by the way. So number one is going to be the blue precision bass from the Damn It video that Mark also played in 99 a little bit. Number two is the tried and true Black Music Man. Number three is Swedish Fish, the prototype Candy Apple Red bass from the Adams Song video. Number four is going to be the Sonic Blue signature prototype, the one that Mark set on fire and chucked in the water in 2001. And number five is going to be the Blue Music Man that Mark played from 97, 98. So yeah, those are my top five Hoppus basses.
That was Q182 from the Sticker Strat crew. Appreciate you sending that in. The Black Music Man does not surprise me for him. The Damn It bass is one that I feel like probably should have been a little bit higher on mine. I don't know why. I have a gut feeling it should have been a little bit higher. I was a little bit surprised by the Swedish Fish, but you will hear that one come up later for sure. All right, this next one is from Stefan with Gear 182. Really stoked to hear his opinion on this.
Hey, Poppin. It's Stefan from Gear 182 here. I spent way too much time thinking about this, and to be honest, if you ask me tomorrow, I'm pretty sure my five will change. But here we go. For me, number five would be Lettuce, just iconic for the time. With him and Tom having the same color of bass and guitar, it's always stood out to me. Number four would be the Candy Apple Red with the fish inlays. Adam's Song was a big song for me growing up, and all that, and having Mark play that on the video really holds a special place for me. Groundskeeper Willie, that one has always been one of my favorite basses that he's always had. Just ever since Pop Disaster, I absolutely love this bass. So number two would be Sid, the black and white. When Untitled first came out, seeing that live, obviously, just because it being called Sid, it really reminded me of the Ramones and all that. And again, I'm super happy that they made a signature color scheme of this as well. But that's number two. And number one would be Scully. Scully, I think, out of any of the Blink-182 gear, Tom or Mark's, Scully, I think, is top for me. Again, just so iconic. I had a poster of the Take Off Your Pants and Mark's, jumping in the air with it, and it's been my favorite piece of gear since as far back as I could remember with the band. So yeah, I'm pretty biased, I think, with the jazz basses, but if I had to pick one of the newer Jaguar ones, it would definitely be the Burrito Breath Stoned Fruit. I really, really dig that design a lot. Thanks, man. Excited to hear what everybody else picks, and happy 2024.
Another vote for Candy Apple Red. Oh my goodness. Maybe I'm just in the vast minority on this, that it's just not up there for me. And what's interesting is one of my first Fender Strats I had, probably about that time period, is a very similar color. It's kind of that metallic red. That was a thing in that late 90s era for sure. So yeah, I'm surprised by that, but it probably should be a little bit higher on mine. He made a great point about the Lettuce kind of matching Tom's surf green, that punker Strat of his. That's rad. I never really thought about those side by side, but that makes perfect sense there. And then Scully as the GOAT. That does not surprise me as far as kind of an iconic bass when you think about Mark. I mean, I think that should be pretty high up on everybody's list. If you watch the video of Allan and I, watch my reaction when we're going through honorable mentions and he drops his. It gives me a bit of a chuckle every single time. And then, yeah, his last point about the Jaguar basses, Burrito Breath is getting mad love. That stone fruit bass, I'm telling you, people love that, even though we've only seen it for a handful of months. So that one is just flying up people's top fives. I got a lot of responses on that. Appreciate you, Stefan. I'm going to try and jump on some sort of Gear 182 video, I think. Maybe we'll do something fun. All right, let's see who's up next.
Hey, this is Captain Dean Collier from Bowling Green, Kentucky. My top 5 basses for Mark Hoppus are pretty cut and dry. It didn't take me long to make my list. If I had to pick between Lettuce and Scully, I would go Scully because it's so iconic. It just represents everything about Mark to me from that era, especially because of the pink and everything. I just thought it was so cool when it first came out. So that is definitely one of my top 5 basses. My next favorite bass would probably be Sid. I'm a huge fan of punk rock in general. I've always noticed that it seems like bass players always have a white body and a black pickguard, and there's something about that look that just seems to be the iconic bass guitar look for punk rock music. And I thought it was cool that he called it Sid because it really represents the fact that it goes toward, Sex Pistols and Sid Vicious and all that. And, he used the, Dee Dee Ramone model for the video recently. And so, I mean, to me, I think Mark gets that. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm a big fan of white bass bodies anyway. So that leads me to my next one, which would be, I don't know the name of it actually. I tried to do research before recording this, but I'm an idiot and I don't know all the information like you guys. But the white Mark Hoppus bass, the jazz body with the pickguard that's also white, but it had the black octopus on it. I would say that was around Neighborhoods. I thought that bass was just super cool. I've had a few P basses of my own that were white with a white pickguard. I'm just a really big fan of that look. I think it's a really cool look. My next bass would be Relic. When I first saw that bass, I thought that was just the coolest looking bass. Again, another white bodied bass, but just super cool with the tortoiseshell pickguard and the fact that he had the original sticker of Blink put on it. And of course, I'm like Mark and go to Disney World and love Mickey Mouse. And so I just thought the stickers, the Fender Custom Shop did a cool job on the relicing, which hence the name, obviously. But that bass was really cool to me, so much so that I actually made a replica of my own, but I call it Reverse Relic because it's got the white scuff mark on the side, but the body is blue. And thanks to Allan, I got to get the right pick guard for it. And it's really cool. I love that bass. And it was instead of having a exact replica, I wanted to make one for my own to use on stage, and people wouldn't think I'm copying Mark Hoppus, which I do on just about everything I do anyway. But speaking of Allan Corona, my last choice would be Jen, because how cool is it to be a bass player, to be someone who dabbles in the world of painting guitars and doing custom work and everything, to be able to build a bass for your hero. I think all of us would agree that Allan did something that many of us would love to get the opportunity to do. And so I really tip my hat to him and for what he's done. And I share the love and passion with a lot of you that Mark Hoppus is just my hero, and I play bass because of him. That's really all I can say. But those are my top 5 basses, and I love the podcast. I'm a huge fan. It was great to meet you in Nashville last summer. Keep it up, and I will keep listening.
Very well said, Dean. Really appreciate that. Dean is a big time supporter of the podcast. And yeah, Davy Jones and I were just walking around Nashville, burning to death. It was a million degrees. And we ran into Dean. So it was rad. If you guys ever see me at a show or see me out, by all means, please say what up. I'd love to say hey and just chat Blink. I was thinking for sure when Dean submitted that Relic had to be on his top 5, and it was. As he mentioned, he has an insane reverse Relic. I believe I've posted that before on the podcast page because it was that gnarly. So stoked to see that. Pretty sure the white one you were referring to is what we call the Mary Kay one. That will come up a bit later with the smiley inlays. And then as Jin as number 1, man, that's awesome. That's so heartfelt to me. As I've mentioned before, true community piece. And yeah, I'll talk about this with Allan at the end of this episode. But for Mark to like that bass in general, to record the new Blink album with it, and then to like it enough to take it out on tour, I mean, yeah, it's truly a dream come true. And I'm so stoked for Allan and David Salis, who designed it, because they are huge Blink fans. And you said it best, man. Like, Mark is a true inspiration to a ton of people. So really appreciate you sending that in. It's funny because, you mentioned sometimes people are like, well, you shouldn't mimic that or be yourself. I saw somebody the other day, they were talking about making, I think it was a sticker strap, some sort of Tom replica. And some people were coming in like, just be yourself, you fucking loser. Why would you want to be like that? And it's like, it's a tribute in a sense. It's cool. It's a relic, as Davey would call it. And to be fair, that's not typically our only guitars. So, for me, if you're going to make fun of me for having a sticker strap, I'm like, well, it's just a cool hobby. It's just a cool little piece I put together, rad memento. And it's not like I'm playing that at the dive bar every Friday. It's just a rad little item in my room at this point. So don't hate on it. If people want to make an exact replica and they're happy, who gives a fuck? All right, let's see who's up next.
Yo, what's going on, poppincurbs? 182 News listeners, it's me, Nico Perro, and this is my top 5 list of my favorite Mark Hoppus basses. Starting at number 5, we got Petey. So Petey, it holds a special place in my heart because Mark actually bought this bass at my local guitar center that I always go to, and I just find that so cool. And on top of that, it's the main bass on Enema of the State, including all the singles, so like quite literally everyone's heard this bass. At number 4, we got Vides. Vides? Vides? One of those gotta be right, but the black and white Jaguar that Mark would play during Blink's residency in Vegas. And it's in the Edging music video too, I just remembered. It just the way the black and white makes the guitar pop out in a way, it just looks so sick. So major props to Joshua Vides, the artist that made this. Good job, man. Good job. At number 3, Jazzguire. So with this one, I just love the fact that it kind of started off as a joke in the Discord. You know, I think originally someone thought that Jin, the next bass coming up, someone thought it was based off the jazz design, the 90s cup little design thing. And then we all joked about, like, oh, what if we actually make a bass in that design? And Mark actually did it. Oh, that's so cool. It's so funny too. But it actually looks really cool, man. It's definitely an art piece of a guitar, I'll tell you that. At number 2, an even better art piece, Jin. I mean, just look at that thing, man. It's beautiful. Huge shout out to Allan Corona and David, the two guys that designed and built this thing. You guys are awesome. And it just sounds and looks so cool when Mark plays this thing live in a concert. I'm so glad that he brought it out to tour with. It just so cool, beautiful. Words can't even explain how just beautiful this bass looks and sounds. And number 1, we just have to put Scully, man. Just that bass is iconic. It's the pink, the little Blink sticker, the Finland sticker on there too. Just so iconic, man. I'm glad. I'm glad Mark brought it out for this last tour. It just that's the Mark Hoppus bass right there, the one you think of immediately when you think of one of his basses. And yeah, that's my list. Thanks for having me, man. Take care.
Wow, that is a great point about Petey. I hadn't thought about it like that. But of all the bases, that is probably the one that folks have heard the most. Enema of the State was primarily tracked with that. It also was tracked with the green Ernie Ball Music Man, Mr. Greenie. But at some point during the recording sessions, Mark went to a local guitar center, and that's crazy, Nico, that this is the same one you go to, and grabbed Petey off the wall. So that's a crazy way to think about that. Joshua Videz, I used to call it Vides as well, but I think it's technically Videz. He is a rad artist that basically makes everything in white with a black outline. And you would think it would be so simple and you could do it and anybody could replicate it, but it's incredible. I've seen that one up close and it actually pops even more in person than it does on stage. I forgot that he used that in edging, so that's a good call for sure. The Jazzguar one, that one is kind of funny. I tell you, I can't see that one without thinking in my mind, the world is a Jazzguar, dude. I just can't help it. And then Jen, of course, and Scully. That is a solid list for sure. Thank you, Nico, for sending that in.
Hi there. Lip here from the Philippines. I'm a guitar tech and a longtime Blink fan. And here are my top 5 Mark Hoppus basses. Number 5 is the Octopus Jaguar bass, which I think is based on an American Standard Jaguar with a custom artwork, custom appointments like the inverse P and the single volume knob. Mark really loves that bass and it has been used since the Skiba era tour and been a bassist for most of his current rig. The fourth one is the Salmon Music Man Stingray from the early days. The pastel colored Music Man Stingrays are pretty rare and it looks pretty cool from the photos and the tone really cuts well. Number 3 is the Bass 6 from the Pepsi Smash I Miss You live show. The tone is really iconic. The looks are pretty cool. At first, I really didn't know what to make of it because it looks like a guitar, but it sounds like a bass. But nonetheless, it's pretty rad, and I hope that he brings that out someday again. Number 2 is Scully from the 03-04 era. It's pretty iconic, used on a lot of music videos, and he recently unretired it for the latest tour. So it's pretty cool to see it again, and yeah, every Blink fan will instantly recognize it. And my number 1 is Lettuce. It was his main recording bass for most of the recent Blink era, and looks pretty cool. It's been the prototype for, I guess it's the prototype for the Mark 1 signature basses, and yeah, it's pretty rad. It's been the successor to Petey, the Sunburst P bass with a single volume knob. So yeah, Lettuce is my number 1. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lip, for sending that all the way from the Philippines. That's really awesome. We've got a vote for Peachy in there, folks. That's the Salmon Music Man that he was referring to there. That is one bass that was actually a mystery for a very long time. And somebody who's coming up, Joey from the Blink-182 Bass Project, was able to track down that guitar. And you mentioned how unique the color is. I think that played a huge factor in being able to actually find that guitar on the World Wide Web and track it down. That's pretty crazy. We got another vote for Scully in there, no surprise there. And then Lettuce. I've got mad love for Lettuce, so I love seeing that at number 1. Next up, let's get to Joey and the Blink-182 Bass Project. Let's see what his top 5 are. Very curious on this.
Joey from the Blink Bass Project here with my top 5 Mark Hoppus basses. Number 1, starting with the best, Current Scully. It's beat to hell, it's road worn, it's cracked. It's got the finish flag sticker from Ida, smiley sticker from Mario. It is all but a community bass right now. Number 2, Peachy, because it's on my wall. And because it's the bass that Blink used during their late night debut on Conan 25, almost 26 years ago. Number 3 is Thumbs, because you can't beat that artwork. You can't beat the pink and yellow combination. It's the best of the Jaguar basses. It's tied with Jin. Jin is right up there too. Number 4, second version of Scully, with the metal plate and the Atticus Broken Heart sticker. That is nostalgia in a bass. Number 5 is a tie between all of Scully's other looks and Groundskeeper Willie, because honestly, you can't beat that plaid. The hot pink, the shell pink, the Arctic white, the cream. It's gorgeous.
Oh man, Joey thought outside the box here. He's got multiple iterations of the same bass as three of his top five. That's awesome. I'm kind of mad I didn't think about that. That takes this to a whole new level. Holy hell. He's got Peachy in there. That's what we just talked about. And then the one that actually surprises me here is Thumbs. Thumbs is a relatively new bass. We just saw that on the last tour. This is named after the artist who made it. And to already have that in top five of all time, my oh my, would not have guessed that. Appreciate you sending that in, Joey.
I'm going to go ahead and give you my top five real quick. At number five is the Pink Jag, because I own it. It's the first Hoppus bass I've ever owned, so I love that. Up at number four, the Jazz Jag, because jazz, and it's incredible. Number three is Lettuce, because of the legacy, because of the tone, because of everything it recorded. Incredible. Next is the Mark II Olympic or Arctic White bass with the dark pickguard. Absolutely love that. My number one, Groundskeeper Willie, because that paint job though.
That paint job, though, I love it. That was David Parkey, who was kind enough to send that in from vacation on a walk with his dog. So thank you for that. We've got a number one vote for Groundskeeper Willie. Oh my goodness. If you saw my call to action in my Instagram stories, you saw this bass in the background. This is a really rad bass. Mark actually had it as part of a reverb sale not too terribly long ago. Actually hinted that he would like it back in some capacity. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see a number one vote for that, but it's a pretty rad bass, no doubt. Next up, we've got Ian Grushka of Newfound Glory. Let's check this one out.
Well, hello there. It is Ian Grushka, bass player from Newfound Glory, with my five favorite Mark Hoppus basses. I guess I will start with my fifth favorite and then lead up to my most favorite. So my fifth favorite would be the Sonic Blue prototype, which I liked more before it was thrown into the water. It's not so pretty anymore, but it was a nice looking bass. My fourth favorite Mark Hoppus bass would be called Thumbs, because it's pretty, and it's nice. My third favorite Mark Hoppus bass would be Peachy, the Peach Stingray. Yeah, when I started out playing, I love Stingrays. And I think Mark was one of the reasons that I liked playing it. I had a red one for a while, which was used on From the Screen to Your Stereo Part 1 and is now owned by Hornswoggle. My second favorite Mark Hoppus bass would be Stone Fruit. I just love the color, love the design, sick artwork. And then my ultimate favorite would have to be the Black Music Man, because when I started listening to Blink and would go to shows, that's what Mark was using. I remember it had a Star Wars sticker on it for a while, and then I think it had a Blink sticker on the pickguard. So those are my top five Mark Hoppus basses, and that is it.
Man, huge thank you to Ian for sending those in. That's another opinion that I really valued. Very grateful for him sending that in. That's really rad. If you haven't caught my interview with him, by the way, go check that out. He was a huge Blink fan early on, went to a ton of shows, kind of traveled around with them for a bit, talked about the early days. So definitely check that one out. As far as his top five go, I'm surprised by Thumbs. Once again, the Stone Fruit Burrito Breath, I mean, those are two brand new basses. So this is just some incredible art that is obviously catching people by surprise and really rising to the top on just rad Mark Hoppus basses of all time. We talked about that Sonic Blue prototype. I was chatting with Ian last night about that, and Newfound Glory opened for Blink at those shows. So he actually recalled Mark tossing that into the ocean. This is Jones Beach 2001. So that's pretty crazy. Story goes, Mark didn't realize it was a prototype and it was actually retrieved at a later date. He does have it now and it looks quite ugly. And then for number one, for Ian to have that black music, man, that's awesome because Ian has some killer pictures from back in the day. We're talking 95, 96. And as I mentioned a little bit later, that and the sticker Strat, I mean, if you saw Blink during that time period, those are the two guitars you're going to see. So that's awesome. Thanks again, Ian, for sending that in. Hope to catch up with you again pretty soon. All right, let's see who's up next.
What's up? David Sully here, also known as Big Oily Ape. So Poppin asked us all to give our 5 top Mark Hoppus basses, but I thought like Allan and Poppin did on the pod, I would give some honorable mentions. Now, I know some people talk about the Tim Curtis bass, the red one, but I actually really like the dark purple one. We didn't really see much of it, but I think it's a really, really cool bass. One alongside that, actually, I really like Terminal Radness, but unfortunately, those did not make the cut. Okay, into my top 5, and some of these were kind of a real tough decision and could probably be interchangeable on different days, but I'm going to start at number 5 with the Sunburst plus 404 bass. And this is kind of a cheat because there's actually 2 that had like the Relict one and a kind of clean Sunburst bass. But that bass to me, it means so much to me because it reminds me of that plus 404 era, which I think arguably from my own perspective is some of like Mark's best songwriting. And I just love that era, and that bass just reminds me of plus 44 and all the songwriting and amazing things that happened in my life and, you know, in Mark's life around that time. So, yeah. So number 4, I actually have Scully. And this could have been number 3. They were kind of like, you know, to and fro in between them. But Scully is phenomenal. Like, I love that bass. I remember first seeing it on Rock Show and falling instantly in love with it. And it was made even more special, actually. I got to see it in San Diego this year with Allan and the Gear 182 guys. And seeing how beaten up and worn that bass is, I'm glad that it's going to have some retirement time because it's really, you know, worked its little bass butt off to support Mark throughout the Blink legacy. So yeah, that's my number 4. Number 3 has to be Lettuce. That bass to me is so iconic, kind of like Scully, but it means more to me because it was one of those basses that you could buy in the Mark 1 round of Hoppus basses and the Mark 2, and it's one that he played as well. So it was really special because you got to get that bass and, you know, kind of be like your idol. And I don't know, just something about that really like resonated with me. And I still got my Mark 1 Lettuce signature Hoppus bass, which I love. And you'll probably see me on my Instagram playing it all the time because I do really love it. But yeah, that could have easily been switched with Scully, but I'm sitting firm at number 3 with Lettuce. Number 2 is a super special bass. Again, 1 and 2 could have easily been like interchangeable, I guess. But for me, the number 2 is the Pink Rams Matty Barato bass. I love that bass because I was very lucky. I managed to get my own made by Matty 3 months after he made one for Mark. So it's always going to have a real special place in my heart. And funny story, Matty actually said that he made mine, well, he thought that mine had come out better than Mark's, which it always made me laugh when I remember talking to him about that. But I'm sure he was just saying that to make me feel better. But yeah, that bass is phenomenal. I love it. I still have it. I play it all the time. And yeah, props to Matty B for making me that bass and, you know, making a dream come true for me. When Matty made me that bass, actually, it also led on to some amazing things as well. Like, it was my kind of introduction with Allan Corona. We started speaking because of that bass, and I also started talking with Tiny at Mighty as well. So that bass is pretty special in a lot of ways for that time of my life. Number 1, drum roll, is, to no surprise that anyone knows me, is Gin. That bass is an amazing amalgamation of friendships, discord, and I guess lockdown as well. And I remember when Allan first kind of showed me that bass and I knew it was going to go to Mark, and it blew me away. It was unreal. Like the artwork, the colors, like him and David did such an incredible job on that bass. And yeah, I'm so proud of them that they managed to A, put it all together, B, give it to him, and C, see it played on tour. It's just unreal. So I love it so much so I even had David design my own kind of gin, which I call a lazy name, Din, which I have now actually. I went to get it last year. I went to see Allan. I got the body. I'm just trying to find the perfect neck for it. And I can't wait to put it together and have my own kind of gin's brother. I call it Din. Anyway, I've rattled on for long enough, but thanks for doing this pop in, and back over to you.
Din. I love it. I love it. That's a good call out on the Timothy Curtis one. I always think about the red one, but I don't often think about what you called the dark purple, or for some reason I was thinking it was more of a gray. I guess I need to look at a closer picture of that. But I was thinking that was actually going to be a Hi, My Name is Mark pin quite a long time ago. So I'm surprised we hadn't seen that one yet. Those kind of remind me of that Enema of the State 20th anniversary tour for some reason. That's a great call out on the plus 44 stuff. I mean, plus 44 to me at that time period, I remember just being so stoked to be able to see any iteration of Blink. So seeing them and seeing Mark and Travis live for the first time, I mean, that was just an incredible experience to me. Plus 44 has a very, very special place in my heart for sure. I'm actually kind of feeling like I need to go through a plus 44 binge again here pretty soon. I go through these little phases where it's like new album, new album, new album, and then I'll get stuck on like a Dude Ranch or a Cheshire Cat or whatever it is. I go through periods of time where I'm just obsessed with a particular album and listen to it over and over. And I was thinking the other day, I actually haven't done a side project kick in quite some time. So you might have just inspired me to go down a new plus 44 rabbit hole. It's been some time since I really listened to that a ton. But of course, one of my favorite albums of all time. In fact, I had that as my number two Blink and Sideman Land album of all time at one point. Scully Lettuce, no surprise there. I mean, I feel like those two are going to be on basically everybody's top 10. That's awesome to hear the Rams, and with Matty Barato, you were able to get a very similar right after he had made Marks. That's awesome. And then Jen, yeah, man, it's just, there's just so much love that went into that bass. And then for Mark to actually genuinely feel that. And I genuinely think he knows what that means to us and to the community. And in my opinion, I think that's a big reason of why he takes it out on tour and plays it on stream. I mean, he knows. So, anyways, appreciate you sending that in. Hope all is well.
Hey Ryan, this is Vince. Here's the top 5 basses of Mr. Hoppus himself. Coming in at 5, I got to put the AOL Sessions Yellow Fender. I just think that color pops so much and like so recognizable anytime you hear somebody talking about it or you see it. 4 is kind of an offbeat one. It's the 2009 Chase Tafoya famous Stars and Straps, the skull bandana. I used it on that tour in 2009, and I gave it away at the Fast Life store. I'm still bummed I missed out on that, but that's definitely my top 5. I love that design and the tie-in with Famous. 3 is our all favorite hot pink Fender Scully. No explanation needed there. Number 2, I'd have to put the baby blue Ernie Ball from the Recovery Australia TV appearance and the numerous live shows. I just love that color and just, resonates with such an awesome period of the band that I love so much. And then number 1, I'd have to put the classic baby blue Fender that I recognize from the Damn It music video. That music video is one of the first that I remember that just really stuck with me, and still to this day. And obviously, Damn It's a super catchy tune. So the baby blue Fender from that music video, and of course, the live show. So those are my top 5.
Nice to get some different ones in here. Somebody has to know what happened to that AOL yellow bass. It's so pretty. You don't see much of it, but when you see pictures of it, it kind of pops. I know Tom didn't particularly care for his yellow version. Believe they referred to it as urine, but it is a beautiful yellow, in my opinion. So that's a rad one for sure. The Chase Tafoya one, that one was sick. That one was really gnarly. If you look on YouTube, there's actually a video of Mark giving that away. I'm pretty sure the winner of that has come out. I feel like I saw a recent picture of that not too long ago, though I could be wrong. The baby blue Music Man. That one's awesome. And that one is in the good hands of Christopher Holmes, who's been on the podcast. So if you scroll down the podcast Instagram page, I shared a pretty recent picture of it, I'd say last year, that Chris sent me. And it needs cleaned up, but one of his goals was to get that puppy kind of back in playing shape and looking as pretty as it should be. So I actually should ask him if he managed to accomplish that yet. So yeah, thanks for sending that in. The damn it one, it should be higher for me. And I'm kind of mad at myself for not making it higher because I love Damn It. It was my introduction to Blink. So I feel like that's probably rising 4 or 5 slots based on what I'm hearing out of this episode thus far. All right, next up, let's see what we got.
Hey, 182 News Podcast. It's Tiny here with my top 5 Mark Hoppus basses. Number 5 for me would have to be Stone Fruit. It's just such a fun bass. I know it's a newer one. The art from the artist Burrito Breath, all the little characters, it's just so fun, so bright, a great vibe. Number 4 for me is the Plus 44 blonde bass that our friend Darth Amal calls Lillian. That is the bass that I think of when I think of Plus 44, and I just love Plus 44. I love the album. I feel like it's iconic. It's unmatched. You can't compare it to anything. You can't contrast it with anything. It's just perfect. Number 3 for me is Gin, built by our own Allan Corona. That bass to me represents community. It represents friends from the internet, friendships forming on the internet, and all of us getting together and doing what we have to do to get through a really difficult and scary time. I love all the artwork that David, the artist who created the artwork, put into that. And again, ultimately, it just represents connection and the promise that tomorrow holds such better days. Number 2 and number 1 for me were really, really difficult because I feel like I have 2 basses that mean so much to me that it was hard to choose. But ultimately, I had to go with this order. 2 is Scully. Now, Scully is the bass for me that started everything. Like a lot of people, I saw Scully for the first time in the rock show music video that premiered on MTV's TRL at the time. Now, I was like 11 years old. I'm about to go into middle school. I'm trying to figure out what I like, who I am, what do I want to do? And I see this amazing band playing cool, fun, reachable music. And that was it. That's who I wanted to be. I saw Scully on there and I wanted that. So I pick up a guitar, I pick up a bass, I start playing bass in the orchestra at school. This is who I am. I'm all about music. And so for me, Scully had to be on this list. Now my number 1 is Relic. That to me is a bass that started a spiderweb of community. I loved the look of Relic during the California era. And so I connected with Allan Corona actually before the Discord formed and got a bass ordered. We worked together, made it happen. The bass got delivered after the Discord had formed. So one day, Mark's online, we're all chatting in the Blink-182 channel, and I had already taken pictures of Relic, who got delivered that morning, and I dropped the pics in the chat. I knew he just had to see the work that Allan put into this thing. It's a masterpiece. So from there, Mark gets connected with Allan, and a few chapters later, David and Allan make Gin. And Gin is used to record this most recent Blink album. So like I said, I love the way that Relic looks. I love the way that it feels. The neck on both Relic and Scully are so smooth, so playable. You could say that it was neck and neck for first place, but ultimately, Relic had to take the crown. And that is my top 5 Mark Hoppus basses.
That is a great list. We've got another vote for Stoned Fruit. I think everybody's just on the grass. I think everybody's on the grass except me, and maybe that's why I just don't quite understand it. All kidding aside, that is an incredibly gnarly bass, no doubt about it. Insane details on it. And then the Plus 44 one, if this is the one I'm thinking of, it's just the lighter one. It almost looks kind of white or creamish. It's neither of the Sunburst ones. that were mentioned earlier, but that is the one that I think of for plus 44 as well. And if you look above the pick guard, there's actually a very significant, it sticks out. It's just like a circular dent in it. And that's one of the ways that I identify that bass. But that's a great call out. Jen, no surprise there. Scully, no surprise there. And then I was thinking Relic is going to be up there for Tiny Yet Mighty. And for it to be number one, I think that's awesome. And you heard kind of the story, the history around it, the lore. That's what I love. And it reminds me of, gosh, this would have been 4 or 5 years ago. It's crazy to think that I think I was just scrolling through Blink tagged pictures or Blink hashtags, and I just noticed this guy named Allan Corona who was just making insane replicas, and it popped up once. I'm like, gosh, that's pretty cool. Had no idea how he made it, if he made it. Popped up again. Gosh, what is this guy doing? And he started making more replicas. And then to look at where we are now, friends with Allan, he's made some incredibly rad basses throughout the year. And then, yeah, Tiny, I mean, really, you're responsible for getting that on Mark's radar. And everything has really just come full circle. And for Allan to, make a bass for Mark. And like I said earlier, for him to play that on the new album and have it out on tour, it's been crazy. And yeah, I think I allude to this in my conversation with Allan a little bit later. Like, obviously, the pandemic was terrible, worst time in the world. But there really was a strong sense of community and online friends and just times that I will cherish. And, as far as my own mental health and stuff, like, felt relatively happy during that time period. So I appreciate all of you who kind of hung out. A lot of us were on Mark's Discord, a lot of us were on various streams of Mark's or whatever. And we made the best out of the worst situation ever. And that's something that I'll never forget. And it's something that makes a lot of these pieces mean even more than, just what some random person thinks when they see a bass guitar. So thank you, Tiny. This episode was actually partially Tiny's idea. I can't take all the credit, but she was saying, it might be kind of cool to open it up. We bounce the idea back and forth. We're making it happen. So you can kind of thank her, or you can totally blame me. Either way. Okay, let's see who's up next. I don't think there are too many left.
Hey there, Poppin. This is Amal, aka Darth Amal from the Discord, and here are my top 5 Mark Hoppus basses. For number 5, I've gone with the Plus 44 Blonde Mark II bass. Joey and I call this one Lillian. It's that blonde bass that Mark used in the Plus 44 era, and I think that really defines that era for me, and I love Plus 44 so much. I love the contrast between that blonde finish and the torque pickguard, and I love the reverse P configuration, and I think that this is the first time we kind of see that reverse P come out, so yeah, I absolutely love that style. I think we've only seen it come out once on the Honda Civic Tour, the Plus 44 played on, but I think it would be really sick to see it come out again. For number 4, I'm going to go with Dabs Mila, which might be a surprising one to some folks. I really love the artwork on this, and I think that it is I love the color. It's such a beautiful blue, and I think it's kind of an important one to signify the change for Mark from going to using like jazz bodies to using the Jaguar bodies. So I think that's really interesting. Also, in the old subs channel in Discord, I had asked Mark about a picture on his Instagram where he was playing an Olympic white American Standard Jaguar bass, and I was just wondering where it had gone. And Mark had texted Robert just then, and Robert told Mark that he suspected that it was made into Dabs Mila, so I thought that was really interesting as well. That's at my number 4. And then number 3, I'm going to go with Jin. I love this bass so much. Such a beautiful bass. It's such a rad collaboration and between Allan and David, and the meaning behind it is just so beautiful. They did such a fantastic job, and they really brought the spirit of Discord into it. And I think it really represents such a bright light in a time of darkness, and it really reminds me of all the friendships that I've made on Discord. And it was super, super cool. And I love that it's on the, all on the new record. And I love that for Allan and David so much. So that's super rad. For number 2, I'm going to go with Jaguar. And I know I'm probably the only one to have this on my top 5, but I really have to have this one on there. And while this is, one of the newer basses and certainly not used as much as the other basses, this is a personal favorite for me for the connection with the Discord that I have. And then this one, this came up as an idea in Discord when we were just shooting the shit with Mark, and we were talking about like that jazz design, and we started talking about how it'd look on instruments, and and I said something like, yeah, can you imagine explaining to someone that your bass is a Jaguar, but it has P pickups, but it has a jazz design? And Mark found that funny and was like, oh, I'm going to get Fender on the phone. And, I thought he was joking at the time, but he actually got it made. And so I was totally floored, and I can't believe that it got made and was used for the most recent tour. And another special thing about it is that when we were invited to go back to meet Mark for the first LA show, Mark brought it out for us to see it in person and play, and he really said that this was one of the Discord basses, and I just loved it. It was such a super special moment to share with a lot of my close friends that I've made on Discord, and we were talking about getting to a Blink show, seeing a Blink show together since like the start of Discord, really. And so to see that all culminate and come together was just such a magical experience. So for that reason, that's why that's my number 2. And I think my number 1 overall is going to be Lettuce. It's just such a legendary bass. I mean, what else what else is there to say? Like, it was used to record some of my all-time favorite albums, right? Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, Untitled, When Your Heart Stops Beating. And also, I think that Motion City Soundtrack's Commit This to Memory should be mentioned in this list too, because I absolutely love that album, and I love that Lettuce was used on that. Matt Taylor is a big inspiration to me as well. One of my favorite bassists, and I love that he used that for that record. So yeah, I think that that is my top 5 list. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that is definitely the plus 44 bass I'm thinking of, and I agree. I think that one's iconic. It would be really sick if he brings that one back. Dabs Mila is a great call out. This is a pair of artists, husband and wife, who do some incredible artwork. It's really rad. And yeah, this is where he started getting Jaguars, and they just started being loaded up as true art pieces. I kind of think of this and Terminal Radness as the two that come to mind, where it is just loaded up front and back with incredible art. And that's really cool that you figured out basically which bass it came from. And that's something that in Tom's land, especially with how he painted his or Doug painted his and burnt them, it's fascinating to me how many iterations of the same guitar can happen. I mean, there are some of Tom's that have been painted and stripped and painted 2 or 3 times. And you would think, dude, just buy another Gibson, or more or less, Gibson, give this fucking man another Gibson 333 so that he doesn't have to burn this iconic one he just used. But it's crazy. It just doesn't happen that way. So it's always fascinating to me to see the multiple iterations. In the past, we used to just kind of look at different stickers or pick guards or whatever. And here we are at this point. It's like, oh my gosh, they're fully stripping these or painting them and completely changing the appearance. Jen, got to be on there. Number 2, Jazzguire. That's awesome. You just got the full lure right there. So Darth Amal here, who is an incredible bass player in and of his own right. Check out his YouTube page. He does some rad covers. But that is the story behind it, and he is responsible for that Jazzguire. So it's so funny to me because if you just Google like an 80s Dixie cup, or I just think of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fashion, like those windsuits or whatever, you will see that exact pattern come up. It's like the late 80s, early 90s pattern. You can find it so easily. So for Mark to kind of take that joke, actually hit up Fender about it, for them to make it happen, I mean, it's just hilarious. And I gotta say, shout out Fender for doing some rad stuff with both Mark and Tom right now. Like, it seems that no matter what these dudes request or how they want, Fender's making it happen, and that's awesome, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. They should be able to get whatever they want, whenever. So that's awesome at number 2. I can totally see that personal reason why there, no doubt about it. And then Lettuce at number 1, nice. You'll hear from me a little bit later on Lettuce, no doubt about it. So, all right. I want to thank everybody for sending these in. We've got basically the first hour of these. I didn't know how many we were going to get. We got a ton. I had to cut this off at a certain point. So if you send it in after I've already edited this, I apologize. Maybe I can sneak it into a future episode or something, but this was a ton of fun. I hope to do more of this in the future. Again, if you ever just want to drop a line on the podcast or say something to be on the podcast, it's really easy. Bust out your voice memo on your phone, record whatever you want to say, and simply email it to 182newspodcast@gmail.com. And if you want, shoot me a message if you're worried I didn't get it or won't see it. If it's super large, I think most of these came through via email, but if it's crazy large, you may have to put it in a Google Drive link and share that link with me. And of course, my advice only applies to iPhone users. If you're Android, I have no fucking clue. You may have to Google it or ask Jeeves. But anyways, happy to have your input on the podcast whenever. I love hearing from all of you. Really enjoyed this. Fun way to kick off this season. I am going to end this podcast with Allan Corona and myself going back and forth for the top 5 Mark Hoppus bass guitars of all time. So if you've seen the YouTube video, this is a rip of the audio. Go ahead and listen to it again in your car if you'd like. But if you want to end it here with the listener feedback, you're good to go. We'll chat again soon. So here we have it. This is Allan Corona and myself, head to head, number 5 through number 1. What are our favorite Mark Hoppus bass guitars? All right, enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now joining us on the 182 News YouTube page, YouTube exclusive here. Editor's note, that was a lie. Mr. Allan Corona, the bass making extraordinaire. Allan, what's happening?
Hey, Ryan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, dude. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was doing a little nerdy research on Mark's basses, and I was looking at pictures and different sticker placements throughout the years. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't even know what my favorite bass is of Mark's. And I definitely don't know a top 5, maybe even a top 3. And I wanted to kind of come up with my own little countdown here. And I thought about doing it myself. And then I was thinking, you know what? You know whose opinion I would really value on this? Yourself, Mr. Allan Corona. He's made a bass for Mark. He has made some insane replicas of bass guitars. Very few people on the planet know as much about Mark's basses as you do. So I hit you up, and I appreciate you jumping on such short notice.
Of course, man. It's always a pleasure to be part of the podcast. And, what's better than just talking about Blink gear and specifically Mark's gear? So let's jump into it.
Totally, dude. We're going to do it. So we are going to count down number 5 through number 1. And I will preface this by saying this is just our opinion. We would love to hear your top 5 below. Drop them in the comments. For me, a lot of it is tied in with the history or just how rad they look. Really doesn't have much to do with how they play or the gear or anything like that. So I think I'm going to start us off with some honorable mentions because I don't know how tough it was for you, but for me, it was really tough with kind of that 3 through 7 slot. So just to mention a couple that were close so I don't get yelled at too much, I'm going to start with Terminal Radness. So Terminal Radness, he's been on the podcast. It's named after the artist who made it. I think that one is super sick. I love that one. Another one that was really tough for me is Relic. I love the story behind it with that old school anime sticker given to Mark by a fan. And then the last honorable mention for me is Petey. And that's one that, I mean, I've held that guitar, like Enema of the State. A lot of that was recorded with that. Really rad history on that one. Those were mine that were very, very close to making my list. Do you have any you want to bring up?
Yeah, in fact, it was also hard for me to pick just 5. I have 3 as well. I think the first one I'm going to mention, and I'm going to get a lot of haters right now. Dude, like people are going to hate me right now. Scully is not on my top 5. Sorry, guys. Ooh. I know. I know it's the first bass that became mainstream in, MTV and everywhere. That was a, hot pink bass that no one else was able to get, especially the skull inlays and everything. But I think over the last years, it just became like so. It's like one of those songs that you just listen and listen and listen until it just grows over on you, and you're like, okay, like for instance, All the Small Things. It's the one song that I can skip out of the record. Same thing, I Miss You. I don't dislike it, but it's one of those that if I listen to it, fine. If I don't listen to it, fine again. But yeah, Scully is rad. Don't get me wrong, I really like it. The Skull Inlay is just amazing, but it's not on my top 5. My second one, the second honorable mention would be Crayola, and it didn't make the cut. Sorry, I love that bass. I love the artwork. It's been more than a year and I haven't been able to finish my own replica. It's so hard. But it's one of my favorites as well, but sadly didn't make the cut.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think my third one would be Lettuce. It's really iconic. It's alongside with Scully, one of those that became as a became from a prototype, started as a prototype, sorry, and just ended up going through a lot of stages. Got the new pick guard, got the new modifications done by the custom shop. So yeah, Lettuce is rad. Not only that, they recorded some of the best albums with that bass, but again, didn't make the cut.
Man, okay. Well, I think some of the ones you just mentioned might come up a little bit later in this little episode here. So,
oh no!
Without further ado, man, let's jump in. Top 5. I'll let you do the honors, leading us off. What's coming in at number 5 for you?
Okay, so my number 5 bass, it was tough placing it in the 5th position, but it's the Adam Songs Candy Apple fish inlay, as everyone knows him. This guy right here.
Yeah.
Those fish inlays. I love this bass. It's just so iconic, especially after you saw it on Adam Songs and then a lot of shows that you can still find on YouTube. The way it just sounded, the way it looked, there's something about metallic colors that I really like. And the fact that it was also one of the prototypes, the metal plate. And then nowadays it has a full pick guard, but Mark doesn't play it anymore. Yeah, it's one of those basses that really defined an era for me. The first bass that I was about to buy, it was also Candy Apple Red, but as soon as I noticed that it wasn't the same specs as Mark, I was like, nope, I'm not gonna get it, but I love the color though.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that one hit your list. It's crazy because nowadays there's so much art on these, and they're literally like beautiful art pieces. But early on when he started getting his signature basses in late 90s and such, they're pretty plain, but they're iconic, just like that. Yeah. So that's rad. At number 5 for me, I think this one might surprise people a little bit. I have the Black Music Man, we call it. It's his Ernie Ball Stingray bass. And the reasoning behind it for me is from late 1994 through 97, essentially. I mean, this was the go-to bass. Every single show Mark was playing with this. It's really the equivalent of the Sticker Strat to me on Mark's side. So those two, Sticker Strat and Black Music Man, those were the axes. If you saw Blink during those years, that's what they were playing. So because of how long he played that and the amount of shows he played with that, and really Blink coming into their own and really just gaining so much momentum, the history there just sells me on it. So at number 5, I've got the Black Music Man. Let's get to number 4. What do you got at number 4?
Should I show it to you? I have it back here.
You're
gonna have to pick one of these 4 basses. Which one do you think is my 4th?
Oh my gosh. It's not Jazz. Jazz is cool, but I don't see Jazz making any top 20 lists to me.
Exactly. Not even for Mark, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would say out of those, my personal favorite up there is the Burrito Breath, the Stone Fruit one.
Yes. Stone Fruit is yes, correct. It's my 4th favorite. Not only because of the rad stickers, because everyone knows that in Mark's bass, Burrito Breath actually used stickers. It's not painted. It's just a lot of stickers. And this guy was kind enough to send me one of them that he didn't use. He didn't find he couldn't find any more room in the base for him to put that sticker, and he and I became really good friends. We started talking on Instagram, and he's such a rad guy, a great guy. He's super down to earth. You can reach out to him, and he'll be telling you stories behind the whole art and everything. And when I asked him permission to make this bass, he was like, "Dude, like I got something for you. Just give me your address," and he sent that over. I was like, "Dude, mind blown." That's why this banana sticker is just going to be framed in my wall forever.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it's my 4th. And I think it could have gone up to 3rd or 2nd, but no, I got better basses coming up.
Oh my gosh. See, now, as rad as that guitar is, I mean, we just saw the debut of it on the last tour. So I'm kind of surprised for you to say that's likely, it could have been number 3. Man, you must love that.
Yeah. I really like it, especially you saw it live as well.
Yeah,
you saw how many songs Mark played with it. It means that he really liked the bass, along with Thumbs. But if you count all the songs that he did per set with each bass, Burrito Breath, the Stone Fruit just knocks down all of the other basses.
Do you know the stickers on that? Do you know if each one of those little fruits or whatever were those made specifically for this bass? Like, did he design those from scratch, or was that art he had and just slapped on?
He did design them just for the base. I was surprised that he didn't actually paint it, but I think he wanted to be just as accurate as the actual illustration as possible. So that's why he had everything custom made as a sticker, and even the art in the back, what says "Keep on Blinking." That's also a massive sticker as well, with the made for Mark with Love, Bury the Breath. That was also a sticker that he had made. So I got to give it to him. Like, if you look at the sticker up close, I'll send you a photo so you can just share it on the video. The detail on it is so impressive. You on the banana, you have 3 different shades of yellow, plus the eyes are not white. They're actually like an ivorish color. So you can tell that the banana is super stoned. So yeah, it's so rad. And that's why I love this bass. It has so many details that they wouldn't go unnoticed unless you see the actual sticker up close.
You just showed the back, and I love that Reaper because that's obviously a nod to Mark's Reaper tattoo.
Precisely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And we all we all the fans, we know what this means. So that's another reason why it's on my top 5. This one has a lot of sentimental value for Mark, and I share that. I know that you share that as well. So it really means a lot having that Reaper in the bag as well.
And the more you show that to me, the more it's like rising up my list a little bit. I don't know if it would crack top 5 still, but that's a rad bass, no doubt. Number 4 for me, this is one you mentioned earlier, and I thought for sure you would have this on your top 5, but it's Crayola. So this is made by insanely talented artist Greg Simpkins. This was a gift to Mark from Robert, who, you and I have talked a ton about, former bass tech who tragically passed away far too soon. To me, this is one that has yet to be replicated. I know at one point you weren't even going to try it. I think you tried it. Is it just too hard at this point?
It's incredible. The amount of detail on Greg's artwork is just, dude, like, I hate that bass so much that as soon as I finish it, I'm just going to hang it. I'm never going to touch it. I'm not even going to record any cover with it. I'm going to be so mad if anything happens to it. I'm going to be like, just slide it down the stairs.
It's absolutely stunning. And to me, again, with the history, I mean, this is the California Deluxe bass. And I had a ton of rad times during that era, tons of shows. I saw Mark playing with this. So to me, there's some sentimental value in there for sure, and just rad memories on my side. So I've got that one at number 4. What do you got at number 3?
Number 3, this is going to be a really biased decision, but yeah, Gin is number 3.
It better be.
Yeah, I thought it would have been a little bit cocky for me to put it number 1 or number 2, but to be honest, my first 2 basses, they hold even more, an even deeper sentimental value for me. But Gin had to make the cut, not only because I made it. I made it based or using the art that David shared with me, but also because it kind of encases all what happened throughout the pandemic. Like, he was playing a lot with you, Ghost of Tsushima, Animal Crossing, and just being able to incorporate all those elements that he really likes and he really enjoys. It was such a fun experience making that bass, and it actually didn't hit me until I saw it at Coachella that I was like, oh shit, I made that bass, and now it's being streamed worldwide. And you know me, I'm not a really ego boost person. I take as little credit as I can, but when I saw that, funny enough, was on my birthday, and Melissa, my wife, was crying while I was recording the TV. She couldn't notice that I was also crying. I was like, dude, like, this is happening. This is really happening. And then the record came out, and Mark shared on Discord that most of it was recorded with Jane. I was like, I can die happily right now.
It's mind blowing, dude. It honestly, it trips me out too. And yeah, I mentioned that on the podcast when Mark walks out, and he grabs Jen, he's playing a song with it, and it was your birthday. I was like, you can't make this shit up.
Nope.
Just so rad. I mean, honestly, this is coming up for me. I won't spoil it yet, but this is up here for me too because of the same reasons, dude. Like, to me, it's really a genuine community piece. Tons of rad Easter eggs on there. And then, knowing the love and fan love from you and David Salis, who designed it, the amount that you poured into it, and then to surprise Mark with it, and then for him to actually like it and want to tour with it, and how amazing the new album is. I mean, dude, what the hell? It's crazy.
One of the things that I actually told David, and he never got to put any Easter egg about it, I wanted the bass to be called the Discord bass. I wanted to bring a little bit of everything, a little bit of everyone, like a little bit of Liz, a little bit of Tiny, but David actually just thrashed my idea. He came up with something better. And I'm not saying I cannot make another one later on down the road for him, but yeah, I'm stoked the way it turned out, and I'm stoked that he likes it. I don't know if Gene is going to see the tour, the road again ever, because, Mark, once he chooses the bass to be the studio bass, he doesn't want it to be out there anymore. So I wouldn't be bummed if it becomes a new studio bass, but at the same time, I wish it would have gone, to the rest of the world. But I know, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And for anybody who wants to know the history of that, you and David came on the pod. This was 2 or 3 years ago. I think that episode's called Mark's New Bass. So you can get all the details about the Easter eggs. Go back and listen to that. Maybe I'll link it below. I probably need to re-listen to it just to have some reminder of those times. Because it was crazy, dude. It was a pandemic and everybody was locked at home, and somehow we kind of made the best of it, which is weird. Okay, number 3 for me, I got another one you left out. Scully. I had to put Scully on there, dude. To me, it's iconic. It was in the Rock Show video, the Feeling This video. Used very heavily on tour, 2001 through 2006. We saw it in Plus 44 a little bit. And then to see it out on tour again this last go around, again, another fan kind of community piece to build it back together. He had stickers sent from fans, re-stickered it. It got cleaned up, back on tour. I think that's really rad. And honestly, I don't know if it would have made my top 5 if he didn't bring it back out on tour this last go around, but I thought that was super sick. I've got it at number 3.
Yeah. I don't know if you got a chance to see it up close, but Brian Diaz was kind enough to show it to us. I was hanging out with the guys from Gear 182. I was hanging out with Stefan, Brian, Armando Flores, who's also like a big Blink connoisseur, really good friends with Jeff Pereira, and David Sully, big oldie ape. And Brian brought up Scully, and he showed it to us. And dude, the condition of that bass is just, I think that's one of the main things why I didn't put it in the top 5, because I think it just needs to rest. It just needs to go home and, lay there forever. And even when we asked Mark if he was thinking about refretting the whole neck, he said, no, this bass, this is the last tour that this bass is going to see the day of light, and then it's going to be kept on storage forever. So I'm glad that he brought it out, but yeah, the condition is just really deplorable.
I think so too. I saw it up close. I held it, which is crazy. So I've got a picture somewhere holding it, which is insane. But I looked at it up close. I'm like, man, this thing's beat to hell. Yeah. It really is. And even when Mark talked about taking it out on tour, I was like, man, that thing deserves to be at the Punk Rock Museum, dude. Like, I don't know if, I'm very much like preserving the history. So if you get into refretting or refinishing and all this stuff, I'm of the opinion, I'm like, don't touch it. Hang it up. That thing's iconic. Hang it up and let somebody for future generations walk by and be like, oh my gosh, look how rad that is. Now, I know that's a pretty minor opinion. A lot of people are like, rock and roll, play that puppy till it's dead, keep playing it. It's a guitar, you're supposed to. But I thought it was cool to get the other go around, and I'm honestly kind of happy it's getting retired as is, because I don't want it refinished and I don't want it to be damaged beyond what it already has.
Yeah, there's a massive crack in the wood. I don't know if it's compromising the whole integrity of the vase, but if you take a look at the photos that Mark shared on Discord, the crack goes from underneath the pickguard all the way to the back. So I think, I don't want to assume anything, but I think that might have been something that either he dented it, he dropped it, and it may actually have cracked the whole wood, because it's such a straight line. It goes back and forth in the same position. So I'm just like, oh my God, I really hope that this thing just doesn't break on stage. I wouldn't be surprised that he just keeps it at home, or even better, like maybe he donates it to the Punk Rock Museum in Vegas. That would be rad.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like they need a much bigger Blink display from what I've seen. Hopefully it's coming.
Right.
But the last I saw, there was just one picture of Mark like on Warped
Hmm.
Tour doing a hop. I'm like, what the hell? They need
Doing the hop
a
is,
whole
yeah, they
wing.
need, exactly.
Good Lord. All right, we're getting to top two here. What do
Yeah.
you have number two favorite Mark bass of all time from Allan Corona?
Okay, so again, I have number two on my wall. We already discarded Jazz. So which one do you think is my number two? It's in
Dude,
between Thumbs or the Rams, Simple Creatures, Pink.
man, if you have two in the top five from this past year already, that's pretty crazy, dude.
Yes.
I will go. I'm just gonna go with the Simple Creatures one.
Yes. That is correct. And
Yes.
the reason I'm behind this bass, it has a different shade of pink. Not only has his favorite football team and it has, Simple Creatures in here, but Matty B, who was Mark's luthier, instead of using the same pink as the Hi, My Name is Mark run, or as the Scully or the old Fenders, the Jazz with the Black Octopus pink, he used a different one called Shocking Pink, which is nothing close to this. It's completely different. It's I don't even know how to describe it, but I haven't gotten the paint. I'm never going to be able to match that. But if you ask David Sully, Big Oli Ape, he has one made by Matty B. It's a completely different pink than, the Fenders, than any other pink that you can find. And I just love it because it was the first Jaguar that he had made by other than Fender. He played a lot with it. And it's also my top two because it's the first one that I replicated from him, and it just holds a lot of, emotional, sentimental meaning for me.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's the first one you ever tackled.
Yep, that's the first one that I did. That's the first one that I was, just sharing the photos throughout 2019 of the pick guard, of the body, and everything. And yeah, it's one of those that the finish is not perfect, at least on mine, but it's just my bass. And when I was, seeing it played on the 20th anniversary of the anime, I was just like, so beautiful.
Yeah, dude, that is such a vibrant pink. What's that pink called again?
Shocking Pink.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely I think it pops a little bit more than the Hi, My Name is Mark last one or whatever, for sure.
It definitely does. Yeah. Hot Pink versus Shocking Pink is just, let's say that the Hi, My Name is Mark has more magenta on it, so it kind of looks a little bit more reddish. And this one, if you, depending on the lighting conditions and all that, it kind of looks a little bit flatter. But depending on the lights, it can look magenta, it can look red, it just looks gorgeous. I love it.
It's so fascinating to me on these guitars, like how similar some colors are, but they're a little bit off. And then as us nerds try to figure it out from photographs,
yes,
or at shows from far away, and people argue with you online, like, that's not Sweet Pea, you idiot. That's surf green. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's just call everything pink and green and just deal with it. Good Lord.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, number two for me. I think you're familiar with this bass, Jin. I had to put it top two, man, for reasons that we already hit on earlier. Like, to me, this was a community piece. Like, there was a time during the pandemic where a lot of us Blink fans were just hanging out on Mark's Discord, streaming, getting through with Animal Crossing, or just however we could through those days. And that's where, I befriended you a little bit before that, but that's where I met David Salis, who designed it. And, you guys have all gone on to be close friends of mine that I talk to pretty often. So it reminds me of, even though the worst time in the world, I also found a lot of friends online, and honestly was pretty happy during that time. It felt like, as far as just, I don't know, my own mental health or whatever, which is kind of crazy when I think about it. But Jen holds a very special place in my heart because of the Easter eggs that are on there, as we've mentioned. And like you said, man, I wasn't in tears, but I had goosebumps, and I was so fucking happy for you and David when I saw Mark playing that on stage. And then when I went and saw Blink on this last tour, I mean, now that I think about it, that was the bass that Mark handed me. Like, very early when I was talking to Mark, he handed me that right away. And to me, now that I think about it, I really hadn't until now. I think he knew, how much that meant to me with the Ghost of Tsushima, and he probably knew that you and David have been on the podcast and we've talked about this stuff and how much it means to us. So for him to kind of notice that and hand that to me right away without even a word, it was just boom, take a look at this. So very special bass guitar for me, dude. Honestly, could have put it at number 1, slid it in the 2 spot just for now. But I'm so stoked for both you guys on that, man. I hope we see it again this next coming tour, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious to see which one is your favorite.
I don't think it'll surprise you too much, but we're almost there. So this is where I need that Travis Barker drum roll. I've been begging for 3 years now. I need Travis to record me a little sample. Number 1 on Allan's top 5 Mark Hoppus bass guitars all time. What's coming in at number 1 for you?
I don't have my replica here. I have it in the garage, and I completely messed up. I should have brought it up here. But we all know the white jazz bass with a massive black octopus sticker and the smiley inlays. That's my all-time favorite bass. I don't think any other bass is going to top that one. The paint is so perfect. It's called Mary Kay White, translucent white. A lot of people said it was Olympic. No. Olympic is the one that you have back there on the sticker strap. This one is translucent. You can see the grain of the wood. The inlays are so perfect. And yeah, he just rocked the shit out of that bass. And when I shared my stories a couple years ago that one was my favorite bass, I had one guy, which I completely forgot his name and his Instagram, but he sent me some photos and he was like, dude, the studio I recorded had Mark's bass for the longest time, and he was kind enough to let us use it for tracking my songs. And I was like, holy shit. And he started sharing photos, and I was like, dude, I love that bass. If I would have been in that studio, we'd be like, Mark, your bass somehow got misplaced. At least for a day.
Yeah, when I love that bass too, and when I think about it, I think of Neighborhoods era, and to me that was one of the introductions to the octopus. So to me, that's one of the first times I remember seeing the octopus, and I'm like, man, what is this? This is rad, because Mark was on Famous before that. I used to rock Famous forever before that. And so that's kind of where I first saw that octopus, and then he started just putting that real big sticker on his bass guitars, and I thought it was so gnarly. But what is the status of that bass now? I feel like I haven't seen it in a while. Is it still in its current form?
We don't know the whereabouts of that bass. He probably, as we know, Mark, he probably gave it away a couple years ago.
Oh,
but
man.
If anyone would have known the current whereabouts, it would have been Robert. We know that Mark gave away the neon pink, also from the Neighborhood era, with the black octopus sticker to Josh from A Day to Remember. So it was by the time that he was just like, oh, I can get another bass. There you go. You like it? Just take it. So it's probably out in the open, out in the wild. I'm gonna do the Joey move on that. If I find it, I'm just gonna hunt it down and try to get the owner to sell it to me.
Gosh, I didn't realize that one was MIA, missing. Wow.
If anyone listening to the pod knows the whereabouts, please reach out to us.
Who did the inlays? Was it Ron Thorne?
I'm sure it was Ron Thorne. I know that Alex Perez was working along with that, and of course Jay painted it. That one was lacquer; it was not urethane, so it was done by Jay. So yeah,
and I always learn so much talking from you. I just love it. Okay, final one here, folks. Number 1, 182 News preferred Mark Hoppus bass of all time. I gotta go with Lettuce, man. I gotta go with Lettuce, and here's why. You talk about some iconic tracks and some iconic albums that were recorded with this. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. Okay, my favorite all time. No surprise there. Podcast logo. That enough is probably enough to just take the cake. You talk about Untitled, Plus 44, supposedly parts of Neighborhoods, Dogs Eating Dogs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So this is a very, very important bass. I think it just looks rad. It's tough to me because on some of the artist ones that are loaded up with rad art, I feel like a little bit more tender love and care goes into those, and they look a little bit more appealing. But during that time period, man, just a funky, solid color like that was all you needed. So at number 1, I've got Lettuce. He has hinted that Lettuce may make a comeback on the tour this next year. Ooh. So of all the ones to look forward to on this next upcoming tour, I'm hoping I get a chance to see that one in person. So any thoughts on Lettuce being number 1 for me?
No, actually, I do love lettuce a lot, and especially when I was working on the replica, and Robert was kind enough to send me all the photos and all the details. That base is not as beaten up as Scully in regards of the cracks and everything, but it has also seen some mileage, and it was hard for me to replicate those specific nicks and dents because, I mean, it has seen so many things, and even the pick guard was all bent, and it was just so used. And one of the things that really caught me was that the color is not actually surf green. And even though Robert reached out to Fender, and they told him, he sent me a screenshot from the costume shop. They were like, you can tell them to use either surf green or seafoam green. And I was like, no, seafoam is bluish, surf green is lighter. And even when Mark sent me the photo with both of them paired up, the one that I made, it looked like a fresher, brand new surf green, which is a little bit lighter. And then I ended up just doing my research, and I think it's on the Geddy Lee Book of Bass that I got as a birthday present for my wife. They started talking about the differences between the surf green throughout the ages. So in the 70s, it was a more vibrant green versus the current surf green, which is a lighter, more like a mint pistachio, if you will. But the bottom line is that lettuce was a custom color, just like Scully was a custom color. Never replicated, never done another instrument with that color. So we are apt. We cannot get exactly the same color unless we go there, take a little bit of piece of the paint, and have it color match. But yeah, it's a custom color.
Well, and that's not even taking into account, 20 years of being played live and sun damage or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, it's funny to me how some of us try to get so deep into the details, and when we get in touch with the people or whatever, they're like, just guess. Who cares, you nerds? It's just it's whatever was laying in the shop that day, you stupid nerds.
They don't give the same importance to those details as we do. I think the only way that we'll be able to find out the exact color is whenever we have it in our hands, because we will at some point. And remove the pick guard, because that's always a spot that never gets hit by sunlight. And yeah, I think that's going to be a very interesting reveal when it happens.
Yeah, dude, I forgot you remade that. It was auctioned off for charity.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Did the winner of that reach out to you at all?
Yeah, in fact, I have a couple photos which I'll text you so you can also add it in the podcast. But he's really happy with it. He asked Mark to sign on the horn instead of the pick guard. But he plays it. He doesn't play it live or anything, but he has it at his home studio. And I'm just so stoked that he was kind enough to bid what he bid for the bass, and that he, cherishes it and he plays it eventually. Yeah, I'm just so stoked that we were able to help CHLA.
Dang. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Allan, dude, thanks so much for your time, man. Really enjoyed this.
Of course, man.
Before I let you go, what's your next project? You got anything you can announce you're working on?
I got a bunch of stuff working on. I still gotta finish my my Crayola bass, which is gonna take me at least another 5 months. I can't guarantee it's gonna happen this year, but I'm currently working on basses for famous people. I'm not gonna spoil it, but all I can say that if you follow Newfound Glory, you gotta keep an eye on what Ian's gonna share sometime soon. If you follow Strong Out, make sure that you follow Chris Aiken, so you can see what I'm building for Chris Aiken as well. And I don't know, maybe Mark Hoppus. I don't know. Does that guy even deserve it? Does he deserve it? But
who knows? Who knows? All right, dude. I'll let you get out of here. Thanks so much, Allan. Rad catching up with you.
Likewise, man.